You ready? You ready, Rayson? All right, let's put you down right over here. I wanted to bring my bunny along. Yep, there we go. Hello, my fellow readers, or should I say, felicitations. It is I, Dark Symphony 777, with another fanfiction review. As always, a link to the story will be in the description below. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, click on that bell for notifications, and leave a comment in the comment section below on your thoughts on the story. And finally, this is my opinion. My opinion is not indicative of everyone in the world. Also, if you're wondering what's with why the background looks different, I'm actually at a friend's house. I'm hanging out with him, and he said I can record while he's doing something else, and I took him up on his offer. So the story I'm reviewing today is called The Stranger in Me. It is a Steven Universe fanfiction written by Saber Wraith 9. And when I started reading this story, I walked into this story with low expectations. I'm going to lay that right out the gate. Because the last two Steven Universe fanfictions I reviewed weren't great. They were okay. They were pitch average, right in the middle. So going into the story, I didn't think it was gonna follow the same formula. It was gonna be okay. It wouldn't be bad, but it wouldn't be good. It'd just be smack down the middle. And I have to say, thank God, I was proven wrong on this instance. I love this story. I think, I'm going to say it right off the gate, this may be the best fanfiction so far. Like, I haven't done that many reviews this so far. Like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, this will be the 5th story for this year. But I will have to say that this may be the early favorite for the fanfiction of the year, of the stories I reviewed this year. Granted, it's still early, but anything can happen, but I wouldn't be surprised if the story end up somewhere on the top 10. But let's instead talk about the story itself. So the story actually doesn't star Steven. He is a big character, but he's kind of, for the most part, a side character. The main focus is on the character of Connie Marshman? I'm pretty sure I hope I got that right. Her name's like weird to pronounce. So the plot basically follows Connie. At the beginning, her and Steven are fighting this corrupted gem. And what happens is they beat the gem, they poof it into its jewel form. Connie gets hurt. Steven goes to heal Connie, and I honestly don't know if this is correct or not, with his spit. That's disgusting, and I don't even know if it's true. Answer that in the comments. Like, is that an actual thing? Like, does he actually heal people with his spit? But yeah, so he heals Connie with his spit and kind of wedges the gem into her sternum, like right around here. And then the gem wakes up and reveals herself to be a Jade. A Jade in this story is a chronicler. Basically, they're meant to be historians. Like, they're the ones who collect data. They're the ones who basically do all the analysis, stuff like that, to do all the science stuff. They go around. However, Jades were retired because of technological advances. There was no need for them to be made anymore, because now anyone can do what they did. So there's that. And the story follows along with Jade and Connie trying to figure out how to get along and how they are going to survive, because it turns out that the Jade is still corrupted, so Connie's body is slowly being corrupted, because it's fine. I know I'm kind of getting schizophrenic, but just honestly, bear with me on this. I got a small bit of headache, so just bear with me. So when it comes to the overall structure of the plot, it relies very heavily on Connie and Jade's character. This is the type of story that needs the main characters to be as good as they did, and also have a good, very, very good level of chemistry. If Connie or Jade wasn't really written well, then the entire story would collapse. This is the type of story that needs the main characters to drive everything. So that way, the main characters need to be written exceptionally well. Are they written exceptionally well? You bet your ass off. They did. Connie and Jade are completely immaculate. There's nothing. I loved Connie and Jade. I like Jade less. I just like Connie more. I'm not saying Jade bad. Just personal preference. There are a lot of conflicts over the course of the story. That's basically a big part of the story. Is there's a lot of different levels of conflicts, and I know there's different kind of conflicts in storytelling, like man versus nature, man versus man, man versus technology, man versus self, so on and so forth. What I mean by conflict is there's certain things that happen that kind of get in Connie's way on her level of growth. So, for example, there's an early conflict where Jade really doesn't want Connie to eat because Jade, being a gem, doesn't eat. So basically, Jade really doesn't want Connie to eat, mainly because Connie has to go to the bathroom, and Jade really doesn't want Connie to go to the bathroom. And so Connie's given these soy delicioso bars by Steven, and she actually eats them, and while they start out okay, her body actually starts falling apart from the malnutrition because the bars are just not doing their job anymore. And, it kind of reaches a point where Jade has to actually beg Connie to actually eat something. There's actually a very heartwarming moment where Jade literally begs Connie, just begs her, it's like, you can eat, please, just do something. And so what happens is Connie goes down to her kitchen, and her parents have just finished making dinner. They offer dinner. They say, "Oh, well, you're gonna take it out?" And they're actually making all these excuses to kind of keep Jade downstairs. And like her mom saying, "Oh, it's like a new study reveals that eating alone hampers your study growth." And you can kind of tell she's kind of bullshitting. She just really wants to eat with her daughter again. And Connie just looked at them and said, "Correct. Yes, I'll eat with you." And they're like, oh, yes! And they get incredibly ecstatic. And there's lots of conflicts like that. There is a big conflict over the fact that Jade has to deal with the fact that she's obsolete. Like, Jades in general are obsolete. So that's a big conflict when it comes to Jade's character, and her slowly over the course of the story revealing that, kind of subtly admitting that she is obsolete. She can't really. She's just like, she's such a temporal fish out of water, even to a more extreme degree to Lapis. I don't know the lore of Steven Universe. I'm pretty sure Lapis was like conscious. She wasn't a gem when she was locked under the ocean and stuff like that. But that was for a certain less amount of time than Jade. Jade was like supposedly way longer, and she was a corrupted gem. So it's like she was a regular gem, and then she doesn't remember anything about her time as corrupted, and then she woke up with like all this new world and new things to learn and all this, and it's really, really humanizing. Like I said, Connie and Jade, they needed to be great, and they were great. Now, there is other sources of conflict throughout the story. There are these outlaw gems. I'll talk about them later. There is the whole thing with the fact that her body is slowly getting corrupted. there's a big conflict of Jade Jade wanting to be removed from Connie, because so that way she could be put on lock and try and get cured. There's another thing with a bully classmate named Mandy Petty. It's either Mandy Petty or Mandy Petty. I don't really know. And that's fine. And some other stuff. There's a whole couple of chapters of a conflict involving her parents, them dragging Connie to the hospital to basically try and find some way to remove the gem because they're scared of her. For her, it's real touching, especially for a friendship adventure story. Like it's really, honestly, I would have put friendship drama. Just my opinion. But there's a real touching undertone to this, and there's an actual lesson to the story of knowing when something can. There's only so much you can do when it comes. No, I'm wording it wrong. The lesson of the story comes from the fact that Jade slowly realizing that, no matter how hard she tries, that, she'll still be, at the end of the day, obsolete. Despite a big portion of the second half of the story of Connie trying to teach Jade all these things, like Connie wanted to teach Jade, like, hey, you can learn music, you can learn, like, you love music, so you can learn it. And Jade's like, no, because I'm a Jade. Jades don't know how to do music. It's like, well, like, the Crystal Gems, they don't know how to do music, but they do it anyway. And it's very touching. There is a lot of humorous moments between their characters, especially with Jade being, like, very, very, very over-the-top, ostentatious in her language. She's very eloquent. And I don't want to spoil the ending with Connie and Jade. I don't want to spoil that. I actually want to leave that up to the people who want to read it. But let me just say, it is very heartwarming. It is very tragic what happens. I'm just going to leave it at that. But go read it yourself when you get the chance. The characters. Jade, it's basically going to talk about Jade and Connie. The other characters are minor characters in the long scheme of things, and it's honestly, Jade and Connie are, like, the only ones really worth talking about. Like, all the other characters, they're written fine. There's nothing wrong with them, but the two main characters are the clear stars of the show. So you have Connie, who's basically just a little girl. Very humble, wanting to prove herself and wanting to protect others. She's willing to let herself die because she wants to team up with the Crystal Gems and help them out. She's willing to she's willing to learn, she wants to do this because she has to. Because if they don't protect them, then who's going to? Sort of deal. Like, the Crystal Gems, they're not going to be able to protect everyone in the world. Why not help them? After all, people need help, and she's willing to do that. It's very touchy, it's very heartwarming, and it's presented in a really realistic way. Like, you can feel the emotions coming through the words, and understand why Connie's doing things, all this stuff. And it tugs on the heartstrings, but it doesn't, at no point does this feel forced. It feels like you actually want to cheer Connie on over the entire way through. Like, you want her to be happy. You want her to succeed. You want her to be an honorary Crystal Gem and have her learn. And then, on the opposite, you got Jade, a vainglorious, very grandiloquent pseudo ice queen who's just so full of snark. Like everyone always complains about me having a comment for everything. She has a comment for everything. She every single thing that happens is like she either kind of avoids wanting to say something or she just says it. and it's usually hilarious. Like, there's a part in the story where Connie is online, and Jade is kind of talking about what happened in, like, a Reddit thing. And then she kind of got into, like, an argument, and then she got banned from music Reddit over, I'm guessing, something to do with songstress William Shatner. I wish that was a typo. To be honest, I don't even know if that's a grammar error, or if that was actually done on purpose. I'm gonna lean that it was done on purpose, knowing Jade and how her character was written. But I wouldn't be surprised either if it turned out to be an actual grammar error. So there's that. But yeah, Jade is very snarky. She contrasts Connie perfectly. She has a lot of big words. I actually learned the word felicitations. I never heard that word before. So, I actually learned something new from the story. That's actually really neat. She's like I said, she's very snarky. She's full of herself. But over the course of the story, she starts getting more humbler, especially, or more specifically, with the case of Jade. And not Jade, I just realized I said Jade instead of Connie. She becomes more humble in regards specifically to Connie. Like, she starts opening up to Connie. She starts pouring her heart out. And again, just like with Connie's character, not a single thing comes off as forced. Everything, it's designed to tug at the heartstrings, show you how much effort the author is putting into these characters' work. And I really like the fact that she's the gem who discovered Earth, but she literally spent like so much time just walking around, always finding something new. And like, even when she was working under Pink Diamond, she's like, I'm just gonna go back to Earth and look at stuff. Yes, that rock is very nice. Isn't that right, Bunny? Isn't that right, Rayson? That's my bun. That's my off topic. I also like to thank my friend who actually bought me this as a like Christmas gift. It was like $120. It's like a collector's item if you're into the Toho franchise. It's Fumo. I would have gotten Suika, but they don't have a Fumo for Suika. But I got Bunny. I got Raisin. I know I'm going off topic. Don't shame me. Going back on topic. But yeah, both Connie and Jade's characters are just so perfectly done. Everything from how they're presented to how they grow to how they connect to each other. It's so warming. And then the ending happened. I actually ended up crying because of it. But that brings us to the ending. Again, don't want to spoil the ending. It'd just be heartbreaking. But I love the characters. I love the plot. When it came to the grammar errors, I only saw like a couple. Like a very minor ones. It's just mostly inadvertently calling Connie a he and then calling Steven a she. That's really it. But that's only in like the first 2-3 chapters. So that's not that big a deal. I'm not a grammar error. I just do the grammar. Excuse me. I just do the grammar because I kind of have to. Because some authors do like wanting to know if there's any grammar errors. Yeah. Pacing and writing. It's beautiful. It's perfectly paced. Everything. It starts very fast paced on the first chapter when they're fighting the corrupted Jade. And then once the gem gets stuck in Connie, it slows down. And it does it in a very realistic way of just wanting Connie to become adapted to the whole thing. And then once Jade wakes up and they start communicating, it picks up a little bit in the middle, and then at the end it picks up a lot. So for the most part, traditional story, minus the fact the first chapter was just very fast paced to represent the fact that the first chapter was just a big fight scene involving the Jade. That's fine. Writing style, everything's written perfectly. From Connie's more humble side to Jade's more eloquent speech, like felicitations, and there she says like a lot of big words. Felicitations is like the only one I can remember off the top of my head, simply because it's a new word. Oh, zounds. That would actually be cool if she said sounds. That would have been cool. That would fit too. Yeah. Yeah. So, but pacing and sentence structure and everything is done beautifully, immaculate. It's so good. However, I would like to say this: when it comes to if there's any problems with the story, there is one specific part I don't like, and that is the renegade gems. So basically, milky quartz, flint, and then later pyrite and zircon. I don't like them. I will say this: I don't think they're written well enough. The problem comes from a sense of fatigue when it comes to the conflict. So at the point when they first show up, we haven't really solved any of the source of the conflict yet. So we didn't get any fixes with Connie's eating habits, with her parents, with the whole thing with Manny, with like trying, at least not even with the gem, like kind of learning to cohabitate sort of thing. And then these gems, mainly just a flint and a milky quartz. And I want to say this: flint's a rock, not a gem. Just thought I mentioned it. That they show up, have them fight, and then they leave. And to me, when I read that part, it just felt like complete throwaway. Like you were just adding something new. I know they're supposed to be more important to the sequel. Like they're not without reason to be there. They're there to set up the sequel, and I get that. But the way that everything is written and when they specifically show up and what they do, it comes off like they're just really there. Like they're just throwaway. Like it's such a weird disconnect. Like you have everything written so perfectly, and then you have this, and you have these two, and I'm just so confused, and that's so weird. It's just very, very queer, and in my opinion, like I said, this is my opinion. But moving on, I'll talk about that in a second. Let me just get this out of the way. Would I recommend this? I would 100% recommend this. Even with flint and the quartz and that little thing, it's still well written. Even the parts, like just they're still well written. It's just they kind of come off as throwaway, which kind of defeats the purpose of them being set up specifically as antagonists in the sequel. But everything is well written that I would 100% recommend the story. It's just that good. The story is just balls to the walls amazing. I love this story. Favorite part. I have two favorite parts. However, I can't talk about one because that one's in the climax, and I'm not talking about that. I just really want you to go read that. But the other one is actually a more humorous moment. So, let me set the stage. Connie offers Jade, this is actually after the time Connie starts eating in, and Jade basically falls in love and becomes a foodie. Steven and Connie decide to treat Jade to pizza, so they go to the pizza place, and they said, order what you want. And so Jade looks at the recipe, and says, I already made my decision. Order a pineapple anchovy pizza. And I literally threw up my mouth when I first read that. pineapple anchovies. Just absorb that through your mind. Pineapple anchovies. I can't even think of any pizza places that still serves anchovies on pizza. I honestly can't remember. Pineapple, I kind of like pineapple on pizza, but mostly especially if it's just with a ham, like a Hawaiian pizza. Granted, I'm more of a vegetable person on pizza than a meat person. But yeah, they're completely worded. Even the waitress kind of stops her order. It's like, what? Pineapple anchovy? And they're like, look worried, and then Jay's like, yes. And then she goes, all right, I'll get you the pizza. So she gives them the pizza. And they're just scared to like look at each other, look at the pizza. And it's like, all right, bottoms up. And so Connie hesitantly takes a slice, and she bites part of it. And then Connie goes, this isn't bad. And then Steven decides to, wait a minute. Wow, this isn't bad. And they both actually like it, and they said, hey, can we take this pizza home? And the lady actually takes a picture of it, saying, hey, this is going on our Insta Snap of the worst orders. And then it comes hilarious, like, oh, I guess you have a new number one. And it's like, no, not even close. That honor still belongs to the guy who ordered jalapenos, artichoke arcs. What? Artichoke arcs? Where do you even... You know what? Never mind. It's probably like a high-end pizza place in California. They would come up with like weird ingredients. When it comes to pizza, it's like if it's not California doing weird stuff, it's New York doing weird stuff. If it's not New York doing weird stuff, it's Florida doing weird stuff. And I should know. I live in Florida. Jalapenos, artichoke arcs, and barbecue sauce. I even threw up a little bit when I read that part. That's actually kind of nasty. And the next chapter is when Connie's mother actually eats the pizza, too. Alright. But now we get to the final part. What would I do to change this story? The only thing I would change is how the Renegade Gems are used. I gotta, give me a second. Help me, bunny. I know I'm coming off creepy, but I was trying to clear my thoughts, and I thought holding the bunny would help. So, how we have to write these two specific characters, because they only show up 3 times. And now you may be thinking, why not just remove them? In all honesty, not only would that be a bad idea, but that would be the worst idea you could do, because they do serve a purpose. They are actually needed. They're needed to set up the climax and what happens then, as well as set up everything to do with the sequel. So they need to be in the story. It's just, they need to be kind of changed to how they're presented in the context. So, I have one idea. It's very risky because I'm not 100% sure it can work. So, what we do is, when they first show up, they show up first at Peridot's barn. And when they show up, it's Flint and Milky Quartz. Milky Quartz, again, just like Jade, is an obsolete gem. She's more or less been retired and kind of moved on from. And she basically just acts as a dowsing rod for other gems. We're going to use Milky Quartz to kind of do this. So instead of Flint and Milky Quartz showing up at the barn and being incredibly antagonistic, we have it Milky Quartz, and Zircon, who's a different gem who only shows up at the end. Now you're wondering, why switch Flint with Milky Quartz? Two reasons. One, and most importantly, we have to present this group as not antagonistic. And Flint in the story is known as someone who has a very big temper. It would probably, if she was there, would probably just try and start something the very moment she got pissed off. That's just, so she has to stay away from this specific part. Well, she's going to show up, and she's still going to be the reason why they become antagonistic, just not in their first appearance. Their second reason is because who they're after, or who we want to hide from the reader who they're after. Because in the story, they are actually going after Sapphire, and as you'll know, Sapphire is combined with Ruby into Garnet. So we want to give off the impression that they're not really evil, like not show their whole hand yet, but also hide what their motives are. And we're going to do that by using Milky Quartz. So basically, they show up. Zircon is probably going to be like a nerdy character sort of thing, because we don't really know a character for Zircon. She just appears at the end. We don't really know about her character, so this is probably the most difficult part. We have to actually make a character on the spot. So I would just say she's nerdy. She's basically like, I'm guessing, like a scientist sort of gem. And just have her be very nerdy. Like that's about it. So Quartz and Zircon, they land their UFO at the barn. They step out. They introduce themselves, and we're kind of told what they do. Since we were told what Quartz and Flint does, Flint, a demolition gem, and Milky Quartz, a gem that basically finds other gems. So I'm guessing like either recovery or search and rescue or something like that. And the crystal gems are kind of wary, because at this point in time, something is going to happen. They just don't know what, thanks to Garnet's clairvoyance. So they basically introduce themselves. They could say that they're basically just, they sense something from Earth. They can say that they're from Homeworld. They're not from Homeworld. They actually have no connection to Homeworld. They work for someone called Shard. But we need to give the illusion that of who they are, what their motives are. We have to try and hide that until at least their second appearance. So for the first appearance, they don't tip their hand at all. So they're just there. They sense a really weird signal of a gem that they wanted to find. Like, you can probably say like Zircon collects like old gems to like basically try and find new things for them to do. So like you have a Milky Quartz right there, who's just like Jade, obsolete, passed out. So it makes a lot of sense. And they're basically they sense the gem that they're looking for. They don't tell what gem it is, but it's behaving weirdly, like they're messing with like a radio or like some kind of study, and something's off about it. It would perfectly make sense since Jade is connected into a human. Like the same thing is like with Steven with his belly button, but Steven is like an actual hybrid. But Connie's more of an artificial hybrid, and the gem is still alive. Well, Steven's gem is like completely inert, besides his like gem powers. So they would mistake them for wanting to look for the Jade, hiding the fact that they might be looking for a different gem, because with the frequency being off, it could be they're looking for a gem, or it could be that they're looking for a sapphire that's fused with another gem, thus muddling things up. And they talk. They just basically talk, just get to know each other at least a little bit. They don't. Quartz probably would inadvertently almost reveal something that they don't want to, but Zircon, being the smarter one, kind of shuts up Quartz, and they leave. They don't really see what's going on. They can find the they can't find the jade. They just see like, oh, it's just a pearl and an amethyst, or they take a good look at garnet, and then they leave. Then comes their second appearance. So the second appearance would be where they tip their hat. And I'll just say this, for the last appearance, keep them as is, nothing needs to change about them. With their second appearance, instead of it's Milky Quartz, Zircon, and Flint. This is important. Have them show up after Jade passed out. Basically, there was a part in the story where Jade gets a text from a friend of hers. She goes to the basketball court. She sees her friend's phone on the ground, and Mandy and two of her friends basically have balloons full of paint, and they pelt them at her and record the whole thing. Jade and Connie lose control. They become the full corrupted version and go on a rampage. And then she's passed out. She's waking up and she has to act. And then she realizes that she has to tell her parents what happened. So it'd probably be after all that. So after she sells the whole thing with her parents, or it could be before her parents are actually about to leave, around there. Zircon, Quartz, and Flint specifically, is going to be important for this. They show up, Zircon and Quartz offer their services, because at this time, they don't know how to remove the jade. So it's like me. So Zircon pulls the whole thing, well, I'm from Homeworld. She's lying, but we don't know that. I can try and look at this jade and try and find something. It's important. Don't have Steven reveal the quartz. Don't have him lift up a shirt. Keep that hidden. They reluctantly agree because they actually see the Flint with the group. They don't trust the Flint. They're kind of trusting of the Zircon and the quartz. They don't trust the Flint because again, Steven's house is like on wood. This Flint is a gem who controls fire. Fire or wood, bad. So they agree to it under the condition that Flint actually stays outside. Garnet stays outside with her to keep an eye on her. Have another hint that that all three of them stare at Garnet. So it kind of subtly teases the fact that there's more to it than why they're there, and it has something to do with Garnet. You don't know, the reader wouldn't know what it is, but they would know it has something to do with Garnet. So they go in. Flint stays outside with Garnet, and then two parts happen. So basically, the first part would be with Zircon and Quartz. So why do we have these two go inside? Well, they want to actually take a look at the playground, so that way when Pyrite shows up in the climax, at the beginning of the climax, she actually knows the layout, and so she can better plan. It also makes more sense specifically why Pyrite is there. So, So Zircon goes to examine the gem. She starts asking Connie questions. Jade asks Connie to see if she can take over the body. Connie agrees, and so now they kind of do the switcheroo where Jade is basically controlling the body, and they basically start talking. Quartz, on the other hand, is kind of sticking out like a sore thumb. And so, Amethyst, or Pearl, whichever one, or even Steven, again, whichever one, they go and ask Quartz some questions. And it's Quartz that reveals what they're up to. So it's like, for example, Amethyst. Let's just picture the scenario in our mind. Amethyst walks up to Quartz, and we basically kind of get the glow down. It's like, why are you working for Zircon? Better yet, why are you still commissioned, despite the fact, for all intents and purposes, Homeworld doesn't really need your type of gem anymore. And then Quartz would probably say something like, we're not part of Homeworld, and that would completely set Pearl and Amethyst on edge, because the first time they said that they were working for Homeworld, but now they're not. So now they realize they're lying. What's going on? At the same time, the story would cut off to Garnet and Flint, so they'd just be staring at each other, talking. Flint would be wondering why wasn't she allowed inside. Garnet would probably just tell her, it's like, you control fire. You really want a gem controlling fire inside a wooden house? Flint would obviously kind of concede that point, and then they basically kind of passive aggressively talk shit to each other. And Garnet would say something, set Flint off, kind of revealing why they are there. So we're after here, basically telling her we're after the gem. You can literally do it anyway, as long as like the end result should just be Flint inadvertently revealing that they're here to take a gem. That sets off Garnet. That leaves Garnet to beat the ever-loving shit out of Flint. And Flint, kind of attacking ineffectively on Garnet because Garnet, actually bathes in lava. And Garnet just gives a curb stomp. Back inside, they're worried. Zarkon's, trying to tell Corsair. They're completely on edge. They ask her, why... It's like, you're not part of Homeworld. Why are you here? And Court says, oh, we're after... And basically, Zircon cuts her off, but she said just enough that they're basically kidnappers, and so they actually start fighting. They manage to basically get Quartz away, at least enough that, because out of the two, Quartz is probably the more dangerous, because Flint is, completely negated by Garnet. Just completely kicking her ass outside. And they basically managed to drive him off and basically give us another source of conflict that may come in play at some future point in the story, which would be the climax. So overall, they show up first, don't appear as threats, ask some misdirection. Second time, they show up with the danger. They inadvertently reveal that they're after a gem. They don't reveal what gem to give off the impression that they're after Jade, but they're actually after Sapphire. And then when this climax happens, they do the whole thing. They separate Garnet from Ruby from Sapphire by threatening Connie. Pyrite shows up to do that. Again, Flint would probably get curb stomped again. They go to Ascension to basically strap up Sapphire to the mind reading machine. They read her mind. Jade offers to bring them along because Jade's the only one who knows where they are. And then the whole climax happens. Again, not gonna say anything about the climax. And that's what I think should do. Granted, this whole what would I change is more hypothetical. You really don't have to change anything with the story. This is just hypothetical stuff. So if you want to say fuck off, you can. I'm not gonna stop you. If you want to say you want to change it, I'll change it. That's fine. I'm not gonna force the author. This is just what I think would make more sense in this story. Because honestly, presenting them as threats immediately kind of takes away from how big their threats, because of just how much was happening in the story, in the context. It just came off as throwaway. That's just my opinion. But yeah, that is the Stranger in Me. I still love this story. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely loved everything about this story. And I honestly think even with the Renegade Gems, how they're handled, they're still written really well. I just have a problem with how they're used. And I honestly can't wait if the sequel is ever going to be finished, because I know the sequel, it might be dead, it might not, I don't know. Fanfiction is always weird. You never say a story is complete until you see that complete caption on it. So you always have to assume a story might be dead at any point until it's complete. That's just my philosophy on this. It's a 10 out of 10. So this has been Dark Symphony 777. I will see you next time, and cut.